replay viewers, thank you for joining me. My name is Heather Rodriguez. I'm a natural fertility specialist, and my team and I help couples who are preparing for pregnancy, conception, or medical fertility treatments. And I'm glad you guys joined me today. So we'll go ahead and jump into today's topic, which is natural alternatives to Clomid. And Clomid's a very interesting, hey Delora, nice to see you. Oh my gosh, welcome everybody, hi. Hello, hello. So Clomid's a really interesting medication. It's probably one of the first that you're going to be exposed to if you go and see an RE. Hey, Christy. So if you guys are if you think this will be helpful, thank you so much for sharing, Tiffany. For someone that you know, go ahead and share this. You can share it on Facebook, Periscope, Twitter. Great. Yes, Sarah, you were talking with your cousin about Clomid last night. Exactly. It's such a common fertility medication. It's generally the first one when someone's going the medical route that they'll be exposed to. So this is something that's very common that people hear a lot about is Clomid. So Clomid's going to be used for a lot of different reasons, but it's generally used in cases where there's a lack of ovulation or what is called anovulation. So that means that there's not regular ovulation, someone's not ovulating either because of PCOS or there's other fertility issues occurring, hormonal imbalances, etc. So Clomid might be what is prescribed. It's generally, like I said, the first that is being suggested by the doctors. So what it's doing, the way that Clomid works is that it's going to, it is a selective estrogen modulator. So it increases the production of gonadotropins, which is a hormone released by the pituitary gland, and it inhibits the negative feedback loop with the hypothalamus. So it's basically going to force the body to ovulate. And not everybody who takes Clomid actually ovulates. So just understand it's not always a guarantee, but that is the purpose of it and why someone would be using it. So a lot of times it's used to hyperstimulate the ovaries so that ovulation occurs, and sometimes multiple follicles will also mature, and it's used for that sometimes as well. So there's a couple of different, let's see. I took letrozole, it was supposed to be less effective than Clomid, but I ended up having cysts in my breast. Oh no. Oh. So there are a couple of side effects that can happen with Clomid, and it's interesting because I'm going to read this list, but there's one major side effect that I've heard a lot about that's not going to be on this list. Multiple births can be a side effect of Clomid because there's multiple follicles that are being stimulated and being matured. Enlarged ovaries, pain and bloating in the abdomen or pelvis. It's a very intense experience because of all of these follicles being stimulated. Headaches, nausea, mid-cycle spotting, and heavy menstrual bleeding. So those are a lot of the major side effects, but there's one major one that I've seen a lot with our clients that is not on this list, which is the emotional roller coaster that Clomid puts you through. It's pretty common for it to be a really, really hard week while you're taking Clomid, so just be aware of that when you're doing it. And yes, multiple births. Exactly, that's the perfect description right there. It's pretty unbelievable, you know, when people reach out to us and they're like, am I supposed to be feeling like this? So that's something to consider. And yes, multiple births is a common side effect of Clomid. When someone's doing an IUI or doing Clomid, that's when these multiple births of more than two, when you hear about 3, 4, 5 baby situations, is because of drugs like Clomid or drugs used in an IUI. IVFs are much more controlled where they're actually taking the eggs out. They're specifically putting number back in. When you're using medications such as Clomid or these other stimulating drugs, the eggs are maturing and they're ovulating on their own, and they're just however many there are out there. So just know those are some of the side effects of Clomid, as well as hyperstimulation of the ovaries. So the thing with Clomid is that, you know, a lot of people have had success with it, but a lot of people have had a lot of issues with it. So I wanted to cover some alternatives to Clomid today because I think one of the biggest issues with Clomid is that it's only helping to force ovulation. There's only one thing that it's doing. And what I want you to kind of think about is, why are you not ovulating? Why is ovulation not occurring? So ovulation is kind of the end result of a whole cascade of events that are happening in your hormonal system. So if ovulation is not happening, there's something before it that is out of balance. So that's my concern is, okay, I'm not ovulating, why? So say you do take Clomid and you do get pregnant from it, there's still going to be that underlying issue there. So whether or not you decide to do Clomid or you decide to try some of these natural replacements, I want you to think about that. Why am I not ovulating? So another thing with Clomid is it's not going to solve poor egg health. It's not going to solve fertility issues such as PCOS or amenorrhea or anything like that. It's only going to force ovulation for that one cycle. Okay, it's not going to help with uterine lining. It's also sometimes shown to actually negatively affect uterine lining. So those are things I want you to kind of understand. So now I'm going to go on to the natural alternatives to Clomid and explain to you a little bit how they work. Let me just take a sip. So I'm actually curious, before I go on to the natural alternatives, has anyone here used Clomid, and what was your experience like when you used it? Did you experience that emotional roller coaster? Did you have any side effects of when you were using it? Is it something that you're considering using? I'm really curious to see where you guys are with the topic of Clomid. You had hot flashes. You just finished a round. Yeah, hot flashes. I've definitely heard of that one. Anyone else? Yeah, so I'm just curious, no side effects? Oh, good. Had lots of pelvic pain and 4 cysts on the lowest dose. You tried it but did not have a good experience with it. Was considering it, but afford of side effects. Yes, hot flashes, no baby. Doing research, no side effects. Okay, so there's a mixed bag. There's a lot of different side effects. Some people didn't have any. Some people are doing research. Nausea. Tamila, you had nausea. Okay, this is great. This is such good feedback. You haven't used Nasdar. Okay, all right. So now we're going to go on. Thank you guys for sharing. You tried but had a topic. Oh, honey, I'm sorry. The first time about 2 years ago, no side effects at all. My doctor wants to try it again next cycle. Nothing happened. Yes, it has served your cycle. Oh, yeah, definitely. We've seen a lot of people when they come off Clomid, it takes a couple of cycles for their monthly cycle to normalize. So that's another thing to consider. And I'm not saying this to say, oh, Clomid's evil. I'm just wanting to educate you on what it's doing and then kind of what the underlying is and if there's something there for you to explore, like why are you not ovulating? And some of you probably know. Some of you may have PCOS, and that would be definitely the reason. So here are the natural alternatives. This is obviously going to be, in addition to underlying foundational things in your fertility plan. I don't have a problem with ovulation yet. My doctor keeps pushing it. Don't know why. That'd be a good question, Roseanne, to kind of explore and be like, well, why are we using Clomid if I'm ovulating? Is PCOS permanent? PCOS is something that can be managed with lifestyle. It's something that I would say is just something more that's managed. You can go in and out of being in that state. It's not permanent in the way that if you go back to previous like certain ways of eating, certain lifestyle habits, then it will come back. But you can help to manage it with diet, herbs, and various things. So the foundation that needs to be in place before we talk about these natural alternatives is going to be eating a nourishing diet, exercising regularly, having some type of stress reduction plan, and practicing something to increase circulation to the reproductive system, such as self-fertility massage. So just know that's like the foundation that we're talking about as we add these options. So know those need to be in place. For some people, not necessarily those with PCOS, but some people, lack of ovulation is due to nutritional deficiency. For some other people, it's due to hormonal imbalances. So those are things to think about and why we want that foundation to be healthy and solid before you add these on top, okay? All right, so on to the alternatives. So the first is going to be Tribulus terrestris. And this is an herb that it can be used to help normalize ovulation. And the best time to use it is prior to ovulation, all month long specifically, but prior to ovulation especially. So one study performed had 36 women in it who were not ovulating. That's what qualified them for the study. And then after using Tribulus for 2 to 3 months, 67% of them started ovulating normally again. So that's after only 2 to 3 months of consecutive use of Tribulus, they were ovulating again, 67%. Those are great odds. Can fibroid stop me from ovulating? It would not necessarily the fibroid, but maybe the underlying issue that's causing the fibroid could also be affecting hormonal imbalance. Great. Yeah, so you've been doing your research. So that's amazing. When you're looking at IVF success rates, they're 30%, and there's a lot of people who don't end up in those studies. IUIs are, I think, they're at, 6% or something? So 67% is a really good number. Just so you know. Thank you guys so much for the hearts. And if you're not following me yet, click on, there's like a little dude right here, a little Perry dude. You can just click on that and then you can follow me because I do fertility scopes Monday through Friday. And I'm always covering the latest information on fertility to help you get pregnant, prepare for pregnancy, whatever it is. So make sure to follow me so you get notifications when I come on. And everyone here is so amazing and so supportive. You cannot ask for a better group. Okay, so that's Tribulus. Tribulus also, there was a rat study done that shows that this helped to promote healthier ovarian function and reduced ovarian cysts. Was another study done on Tribulus, but it was a rat study, not a human study. And then also, Tribulus has been shown to help reduce sperm antibodies. So that's a totally another subject, but that's something to know. Like Tribulus does a lot of different things, very supportive for the ovaries specifically. The next herb is going to be Vitex. One of my favorite herbs. I don't think a week goes by that we don't talk about Vitex. But the Latin name Vitex angus castus, also known as chaste tree berry. It's a fantastic herb to help support normal ovulation, but it does it through the feedback loop, the hormonal feedback loop. It helps to support the pituitary, the hypothalamus, as well as the ovaries. So the ovaries are actually part of the endocrine system. I don't know if you knew that or not. Because they do produce hormones. So it helps to support that hormonal feedback loop, which is going to make the hormonal cycle function as it should, because hormone A is what stimulates hormone B to come on board, which stimulates hormone C to come on board, and so on. So they're working in an orchestra together, and that whole loop and that communication loop needs to be working. So Vitex helps with that. Vitex is also one of the main herbs we like to use to help with PCOS. And yeah, is anyone else experiencing technical difficulties during the scope? I don't think so. I haven't seen anything else. Great. Okay. So, excellent. Yeah, so Vitex is one of my main go-tos when it comes to ovulation and helping to support normal progesterone levels. It's a fantastic herb. Shatavari is going to be the next one. So Shatavari is an herb that is similar to asparagus, but it's the root. So it's an herb that it's an estrogen regulator, so it helps to regulate the cycle, the menstrual cycle. So you've noticed all these herbs have different approaches to how it's going to help with ovulation. We first had Tribulus, which is specific to the ovaries and helping to support ovarian health. We've got Vitex, which is helping the hormonal feedback loop and the communication. And now we've got Shatavari, which is going to help regulate the entire menstrual cycle. Shatavari is spelled Shatavari. Shatavari. And the Latin is Asparagus racemosus. And so this is like an overall tonic. It works very well with all the other herbs. Thank you for putting that up there. It works well with all the other herbs to support ovulation, but they approach it differently. And then I'll talk a little bit more about that in just one second. So Maca, of course, Maca. Maca is another herb that can be used to help support the overall hormonal cycle. It's very nourishing to the endocrine system. So this is kind of like the food that we're going to bring in to nourish the endocrine system so everything's functioning right. It also helps to control hormonal function and helping to keep everything balanced, especially in cases with excess estrogen. And someone was asking, can we use all of these herbs together? Yes, you can. That's actually how I would approach it. More so if you're definitely not ovulating, all of these herbs work really well together. I have my Fertilica phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 is going to have the Tribulus. It's also going to have the Vitex because that's the best time to use those herbs. And then phase 2 is going to have the Vitex and the Maca in it, as well as with some other herbs. So if you want to use it in a biphasic way, check out Fertilicare phase 1 and phase 2 at the Natural Fertility Shop. And you can use these herbs while you're fertility cleansing if you've already started using them. If you haven't started using them and your fertility cleanse is coming or you're on it, just wait until your cleanse is over to begin with these herbs. It's just best to focus on the cleanse unless you're already on the herbs. We don't want to take you off of them. Maca makes you very frisky. Awesome. One of the bonuses of Maca. And that's the really cool thing is, we talked about side effects a little bit ago. The side effects of these herbs happens to be increased libido, increased circulation, increased energy. Oh my gosh, Maca gives me so much energy. So it's kind of funny when you look at the different effects of these herbs. It's like, oh, I can't take maca after one because it gives me so much energy. That's a bit different than I want to tear my partner's head off. How long is the fertility cleanse? It's generally around a month. It just depends on how long your cycle is because it's based on your monthly cycle. You start it right after your period and you end it as soon as you begin your next period. So it depends on how long your cycle is. So those are the main herbs. One question I did want to make sure to cover before I open up for Q&A is a lot of people ask, can I combine Clomid with fertility herbs? Well, there have been some small studies done on using Tribulus in combination with Clomid with favorable results. I have to tell you that we do not ever want to combine fertility herbs and fertility medications together, because when you're doing fertility medications and you're on a protocol, you want to focus on that. You don't want to mess with it, especially when you're preparing for something as expensive as IVF. You want to do your herbs beforehand, before you start your medications, before you start your cycle. So just know that I wouldn't suggest combining herbs with the medications because you're being monitored for, yes, either or use the herbs in preparation and then begin the medications, because you're being monitored for those medications. They're very specific, they're very strong. We don't want to mess with that. So again, the 4 herbs are going to be Tribulus, Vitex, Shatavari, and Maca are the alternatives, but I would work at combining at least a couple of those, if not all of them together. And you can find those in Fertility Care Phase 1 and 2, or you can get those by themselves at the shop. You can get all of these herbs at the shop because they work so well. Of course, we're going to carry them at Natural Fertility Shop. So I'm going to leave you at that. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope you have a beautiful day and that you found this helpful. You can also share this scope during the replay if you know someone who should be hearing this. So thank you guys so much. Have a great day. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.